October. I'm already thinking November. Welcome to October, to our speaker series for this month. And go ahead, please, and put down in your brain that the next one is going to be in November over at Reframing Middle School on November the 19th. We're going to really get into looking at some of the specific data for Decatur, because I know a lot of folks really want to know how big of an issue is this, when does it start, let's look at some trends. So we'll be looking at that on the 19th. I love this location. How do you like this location? Yeah, I think the parking is a little bit easier once you figured out where it was, right? So thank you guys for being here. Welcome to the Parent Network. I know that a lot of you guys, is there anybody who this is your first time at one of our speaker series? Wow, yay, yay. So a lot of new folks. The Decatur Parents Network has been active now for about 3.5 years. And we are all about building network between parents in Decatur and promoting healthy activities and choices for our kids. Specifically looking at some things like mental health issues, stress, anxiety, substance abuse, sexuality. So those are just some of the things that we look at. Please go on our website. We'll be reaching out to you after tonight if you're not already a member. There is no cost to join. Okay? We do not take membership dues, period. We are very blessed tonight in that we were asked to actually bring this back with a bit of a twist on it. And so we're very excited tonight that two folks here from Decatur High School, Cheryl Nahmias and Dr. Ken Jackson, will be looking at how to help your kids navigate through some of the academic stresses that they may have. And at your request, we have looked at it not just being for kids who are in IB and not just for kids who are in high school. Okay? So with that, drum roll, there you go.
Fire response and then great.
So a little bit of housekeeping. Does everyone have a red and green card and one of these self-assessments? If you don't, just pop a hand up and we will come by to make sure you have one. Just be there you go.
Is there a reason to give me 2 red cards? Ken, you give me 2 red cards? No.
Oh, double negative. When something's really, really bad, hold up to your guys. So, welcome everybody. My name is Cheryl Nahmias, and I am a Decatur parent. I have a 6th grader, a 10th grader, and a college freshman who came all the way through. He's a lifer from pre-K at College Heights all the way through. And I work here as an instructional coach and IB coordinator. Ken?
My name is Ken Jackson. I'm one of the counselors here. This is my 12th year at City Schools of Decatur. So right there used to be my parking spot before this building was built. And now it's not, so y'all are in my parking spot.
So this is my 13th year in Decatur. I was at Renfro for 7 years, and now this is my 7th year here. So I sort of watched kids go through 7th year middle school, my own kids through middle school, and now here. And this is a topic that is really near and dear to both of our hearts and to a lot of our college hearts, because even in the last 10, 13, 12 years, we've really seen an uptick in the complexity and a lot of the variables that are sort of working in the worlds of our students and our children. And the first thing that I want to say about all of this is that school is a big part of your kids' lives. So you're here because for good, for bad, whether your child loves school or doesn't love school so much, it's a big deal. It takes up a large portion of their daytime and then some of their evenings. It occupies a lot of their headspace, even when they're not here. And so while there are tons of things that might be stressful in a child's life or a human's life, school is one of those things. And so what we want to focus on today is somewhat, we'll touch on some of the other factors out there, but really about how to manage some of the stressors that come from school. And the other thing, and I'll probably say it more than once, is that all the things that we'll talk about tonight are not teenage problems or adolescent problems. They're human problems. Your children are humans that are just younger and haven't been alive as long. A lot of the things that we'll talk about will be things that you go, yep, that's me, yep, that's me, yep, that's me, because it's not like we grow out of this stuff. We just hopefully get better at managing it. There's a lot of things, a lot of stressors in all of our lives, and so maybe you'll hear a little bit that will kind of, resonate with you, but we really try to treat the kids here, and when I was at the middle school, like, they're human beings, not like mini adults. Okay, so first step is to kind of orient yourselves. Everything on this sheet, this is a little self-assessment, and I want you to take it for yourself. I'll give you a couple minutes, and this is going to orient you towards some of the things we'll be talking about tonight, and we've given you each a red and green card, and at various points, we'll kind of check in on where people are with these items. So if you don't have a red or green card, or you don't have one of these self-assessments, we will give it to you now. But take a minute and really think about, answer honestly for yourself.
Sure, I'll have a question. So,
Yes.
yeah, I just read quick through some of the questions, and
Yeah.
you have multiple kids in the system, and the answers are different.
Just
Yeah.
put the number dash and the other number.
Sure.
Okay.
Make a kid A and a kid B in your head, and write an A or B in the box for how it might be different.
So everyone have cards. They'll be in later.
Okay, I'll give you about 20 more seconds. And then we'll get started. Okay, now before Ken starts us off, a quick poll of the room. Raise your hand if you have at least one child in high school. Okay, hands down. Raise your hand if you have at least one child in middle school. Okay, raise your hand if you have a child younger than middle school. Okay, good. We just kind of like to know who our audience is.
Raise your hand if one of them is your favorite. Okay. Raise your hand if they know who's the favorite. Okay. Okay, I'm going to do a quick activity because you shouldn't leave a thing on stress, more stressed out when you came. So, you're dispelled. If you can hear it, just give me a nod, which is loud enough. You can? Good. We're going to do a quick mindfulness exercise. We had 120 or 30 semi-stressed seniors in here this past week. Last week, we did this with them. So here's what I want you to do. Keep your eyes open or closed, it doesn't matter. When the sound goes away and you can no longer hear it, just lift a finger. So as long as you can hear it, wait, and I'll do it maybe 3 times, just to give you a chance to focus on the sound. So when it quits, lift a finger. All right, thank you. Hopefully you weren't grading yourself. I hope I'm not the last one. I don't want to get a bad grade. I hope I'm not the one who hears it. It's supposed to be a way to just focus your head on what you're thinking about at that moment, not before, not after. And so when we think of stress, okay, I see happy faces going, I see some of you going, my right here. some of you going, what I'm dealing with once I leave here, please raise your hand because we want to meet you. Who is the person here that did not feel stressed today? Excellent. Okay, so that's great. I have some of those days. And these are often the things we think about when it comes to stress. They pop into our heads. So we're going to look at, when it comes to academics and other stuff, feel free to apply this to your own lives elsewhere. I was telling Terry I actually need to come hear myself speak this so I learn it. But there are 3 questions, both for academics and for other things, that we sort of ask. Is this thing coming at me? Is this something related to academics perhaps that I need to reframe because it's in my head, I'm picturing it in a way I could picture it differently? Is this something with academics that I can control? I have some power over. Or, as colleges tell us, as workplaces let us know, is this something I need some resiliency and some ability to endure? Because we know all stress doesn't usually go away. So we're going to look at these 3 areas, both from some questions that we have on there and some things that you can do and how we maybe can provide that space. As a bonus from last year, if you came, this is a little bit different. We will end and I'll tell you a little bit about some things they've looked at with colleges when it comes to stress and how we can maybe help students not to do that. It is my dream to go into elementary and middle school and to be able to teach this. This is what they're having difficulties with in stress in college. And let's start at 6, 7, 8, 9 instead of you're heading to college and yeah, you're stressed. I should have worked on that. So that's what we're going to try and look at right now.
Okay, so the first thing is to build some solidarity and also to kind of probe our own practices currently around the things that Ken and I are going to talk about. So take a look at your self-assessment, and as he flashes these items up, I want you to give me a green if your answer is yes, or a red if your answer is no. And just hold them up so that we can all take a quick poll, okay? I have had a discussion with my child about my expectations for their academic achievement or grades. Okay, most people are saying that they've had that talk, okay? I've asked my child to tell me what they think are reasonable expectations for their academic achievement or grades. Okay, a few more reds. All right, so this is one of the things we're going to talk about is actually, are we communicating messages about things and not actually hearing what our kids sort of think and what their own sort of expectations for themselves are. When my child is upset about something, I try to solve the problem. I'm like this. I'm trying so hard to be just this, or just this. Okay? When my child is upset about something, I listen and offer empathy. Okay? Good. My child is afraid of failure. Okay. That's a big one. There's a lot of greens. All right? My child compares him or herself to others. All right, I'm going to be honest. If I could wave a wand and take away anything that kids do, that humans do, it would be comparing themselves to others. Bar none. Like if there's one thing that I could just be like, nobody's ever going to do that. Like when I pass out PSAT results in my advisement, I forbid them to share. Forbid it. Like, I'm sure they go share the minute they're out of my sight. But I'm just like, there's no good to come from comparing yourself to others. Run your race, whatever. So if that is something that your child is doing, that's something that we can really work on. And I focus on my child's effort grades at least as much as on his or her academic grades. Okay, good. That's awesome. We've done our job. Okay. So now these are some of the things that Ken is going to talk, because these things all fall into sort of, if any of these things are things that you're working on with your child, they fall into this approach to stress that's called reframing. Like, how do we reframe the stress to make it positive?
And so these are actually based on conversations we've had with children and with students over years that keep coming up as they're talking about the areas of stress. And so when it comes to reframing, what we choose to see, what we automatically see, what has been built to us to see, and Cheryl put it really well. All the things we're trying to share with them are things that we struggle with ourselves. And we're often trying to navigate the messages that we have heard. So when it comes to reframing, these are the 3 that seem to come up the most. The first one, and we're going to send you this, and I invite you to listen to this deceptively wonderful and meaningful YouTube TED Talk. Starts off by talking about, so the college essay. What should be in a college essay? And after he ropes you in, because you're really listening, he really starts talking about something else. It says, we as a society, and we passed it on to parents, and we pass it on to children, have come up with this idea. If my kid gets into a good college, or really has a good application, or really is making some good grades in school, if they're doing these good things, therefore my child is a good person. Good application equals good person. And some people do a lot of cheating and bribing to make good application equals good person. And we believe that. This person actually pointed out what we should be working on is this. If we work on the good person part, push yourself academically. Push yourself with clubs and activities. Step out of your comfort zone when it comes to community service. Actually, be kind. I was talking to students about community service and said, how many of you are trying to become better people by actually doing good for others? If we work on the good person part, we get the good application. But it is so significant when we flip that in our conversations with students. I had a conversation with a student in 10th grade, and she was struggling with a course, I don't remember what it was, and as we're talking through these things, she ended up blurting out, out of nowhere, if I don't make an A, my mother won't love me. I know that mother, and she's got a lot of love. And by the way, the child's in college now, mother and child doing fine, life wonderful. But I wonder, how did she get that message that we had heard that good grades, good application, good stuff, equals being a good person rather than working on the other? When we mix that up, stress goes to an enormous level. The next one we hear, and Cheryl already mentioned, is comparison versus independence. Comparing to other people. And sometimes we have to put a stop to that. Sometimes I miss the opportunity to stop. I was telling Cheryl I walked into a class the other day, and two friends turned around, and one of them said, okay, so what did you make on that last assessment, huh? And he said, hey, I made a 6. Man, I only made a 5, whatever, which affected them that much. But as Cheryl pointed out in the conversation, what about all the other people who were listening? You made 3s, 4s, or I made a 6 too. What next time if I don't make a 6? What does that mean? And so we have told students, if you want to guarantee being miserable from middle school through high school, into college, and into adulthood, it's a guarantee, build your life upon comparing yourself to other people. Yet we do the same kinds of things. I am on a secret mission. It's not so secret. I'm making placards and going around. But when I'm in charge of the world, on the transcript, the class rank comes off of the transcript.
Yes.
Colleges do not want it. I can click a button that says, does not rank. Okay? And then only we do valedictorian, salutatorian in May of senior year. But that ranking, when I get 9th graders who barely have figured out how to unlock their lockers and get to the next thing and going, so what's your class rank? And I'm going, it does not matter. But that is a comparison we build in. That is just one when we're doing the better thing. And then finally, how many of you, you don't have to raise your green card here, okay, but you can just go, my child. How many of you have a child for perfectionism is, I need to hit this mark. If I don't hit this mark, I'm a bad person and the world is a bit ruined. Okay, some of you who are spouses are going, okay. We need to put to death perfectionism, but we can reframe it. Some of our children are going to aim at this no matter what, and that's good. They're going to be the CEOs and presidents and everything else. But there's a difference between aiming at being exceptional in what I can do versus being perfect equals I'm a good person and have value. We have told some students, and they have looked at us like we were basically, some kind of terrorist organization. Said, I hope before you graduate, you make a B. Okay? Because we know that where you want to go to school and what you want to do with your life, and you really need to work on that. I had one student recently, 11th grader, and I wanted to go, my work here is done. She was talking about, she's taking some hard course, and she goes, I made a 5 in that class, a B+, and I am ecstatic. Last year, that would have floored me. This year, I know I'm aiming for here. So we've got to get that message to them that it's okay to aim for here, but that doesn't determine your worth and value. When you make it, it doesn't make you a better person. And that becomes a little bit of a challenge, because they begin hearing this message from us, or they think they do. So I believe firmly that none of you are saying to your children, unless you make good grades, you're not a good kid. I know you're not. I am not. No one is. But I think we have to be rather overt with them and say just the opposite, because they've heard the message somehow. You do not have to make good grades to be loved. Now, I want you to make good grades, that's not the reason, but I need you to aim for this. But if not, let's figure out some ways to push it back in. Because stress is not always bad. How many of you have heard stress can kill you, and the more stress you have, it does bad stuff to your heart and causes really bad things? How many of us heard that? It's a lie. Okay? You've got to hear this. What they have found out is the way you believe about stress, if you think it is going to harm you as you're dealing with it, it will. They've done some really cool, like MRI kinds of things on people's arteries. And the people who found out, I'm facing this stress, and it's okay, I will find a way through that. Though their heart was racing and everything, it was open this way when they did a little MRI and they looked at what was happening to their blood vessels, versus people who thought it was bad, their heart is racing, but it begins constricting. The person who is a doctor who actually talks about this says, I've gone around and changed my message. My message is, stress can be useful, we can do something with this. I've talked to students who, they did this really great study with stress, and I tell students, they go, really? So, they had a conversation with students and said, you're going to take a really hard test now, and it is going to stress you. Right? It's difficult, okay, hard. But then we told you a secret, okay, we didn't tell you, you left the room. This stress is useful. It's like when the tiger comes into the room, you're going to think more sharply, you're going to think more quickly, you're going to be more effective when you take this test. Then we gave you all the tests, and we measured your stress level, and you said, we are really stressed, and you said, we are really stressed. And then they graded the test. These people scored better. Mixed group, just because they knew that stress could be useful. So we have to help our children understand when stress moves to a distress, and when stress can be something that we can actually use, and let me help you with this. Because they tell us 1 out of 4 adults in college has a diagnosed mental health illness. And they tell us that the depression and anxiety is increasing, and so we have to find out ways to give them those supports now. And so that's one of the things we're talking about.
Okay, so you didn't come here just for,
My beautiful
information, although it's fun to watch that. We also want to give you sort of strategies. Okay, so you've thought about, you've kind of done a self-assessment. We've thought a little bit about this aspect of stress that's just reframing. And then the other 2 we'll go into are just sort of like being resilient in the face of stress. And then, how sorry, I forgot the 3rd one. It just went right out of my head. But what we want to give you for reframing is actually some strategies. Now, on your sheet, out to the side, it sort of says, like, pick a couple things that you might go home and try. Do not pick 12 things. Make some notes as you go. But if you go home and say, I'm going to change everything, I'm going to do all these things, that's just going to be stressful. So here are some things, and I filed these things under simple, not easy. They're simple, they're straightforward. If they were easy, everyone would do them. So simple, not easy. Be sure that your child knows that stress is not in and of itself a bad thing. Stress exists in the world. You can't entirely control it. What you can do is control how you react to it. Schedule a sit down. For those of you who have the read up about whether or not you've talked to your child about your expectations, but especially let your child tell you theirs, schedule that. Like say, let's sit down and just you tell me, what do you think is reasonable? What's hard for you? What's easier for you? What do you think is like a good goal, a good short-term goal for like the next 6 weeks or whatever? Listen non-judgmentally. This is my really hard one because I'm a fixer. And if you're a fixer, you know every bone in your body wants to fix everything you see. Listen non-judgmentally when your child is upset and offer empathy but not a fix. Because they have to sort of get into that mindset of fixing their own things when they come up. And oftentimes they really don't want you. How many have had the experience, you can give me a green, if your child came to you really upset, and then you did something to fix it, and then they just whipped on you like a snake, and it was, no good deed goes unpunished. Okay. That reaction is because that's not what they were looking for. What they were looking for was for you to go, yep, that sucks. I'm really sorry that happened to you. And just leave it at that, which is really hard. So that is something that if you know that you're that fixer parent, this can really go a long way. And it's amazing how quickly a kid will just come out of something. Give it a little bit of space to just move through it. Help your child brainstorm solutions. So if they really are having a struggle, help them brainstorm. Here's one, this is a really practical tip for school. If you've ever had your child maybe get a bad grade, and they come home and you've seen the grade and you're having a discussion with them, and they suddenly start flying at you with all these reasons. And a lot of the reasons have to do with someone other than them. Their teacher, or something in the class, or something whatever. And a lot of our reaction is, I'm going to email somebody. I'm going to email a teacher. And I'm going to say, in 5 paragraphs or less, here is what happened in great detail because my child just spewed all of this to me and I'm upset for him or her, and now I'm going to say this thing. So the way that this usually goes down is the teacher reads it and they're like, oh my God, and there's some amount of truth in what your child said, and there's some amount of truth in what really happened. And usually you don't really get to the truth until you're sitting in a room with the teacher and the child and you. And then it all becomes clear. And so a way to sort of avoid these kinds of your child is upset and they're kind of whatever, and then you take on that upset, this is Ken's simple trick. You tell your child, I'm going to write this email, take a look at it, this is what I'm about to send your teacher, and I'm copying you on it. So review it and make sure that this is, what we want to say. Or better yet, have your child write to their teacher and copy you. Either way, you're both in the loop, you're both kind of taking action, you're being supportive, but you're not being the fixer. Now, obviously, if it's something just egregious, deal with it between adults. But in high school, this is a really good first step. One of the things that a lot of kids do not know how to do in the next phase of life is talk to an adult. And deal with adults one-on-one, their counselors, their professors, whatever. And so these are some simple things where you can show empathy, but help them solve a problem. Encourage healthy risk-taking. It's okay to fail at stuff. It's okay to try out for stuff. If your kid wants to try out for something and you're pretty sure they're not going to make it, let them do it. Encourage them to do it. Say that would be an awesome experience to try out for something and not make it. Everybody should have that experience. Actually make that the positive thing to do. Discourage your child always from comparing him or herself to other people. If your child tells you that they did an extensive poll of everyone in 9th grade and know that everyone else got a 6, number one, that's false. It means they talked to the 2 people closest to them and then generalized it from an N of 2 to everyone. But also, really the response is not, although, it's tempting to say, obviously you don't know what everybody else got. The response is, it doesn't really matter what everyone else got. If you got this and you want this, let's work on your race. How are we going to help you get from here to here, not looking all around you and trying to figure out where everyone else is. And then finally, and I think a lot of you already sort of said this, or you've raised a green to it, really emphasizing effort over achievement. Praise effort, reward effort, make that the goal, and let the grade be a result.
Sure, can I say one thing with that? They did some basically conversations with students, and they found out when you praise the child because of the accomplishment, you made an A, you're just an amazing person. What that is also saying is that when you don't make an A, why?
That's good.
Okay, you made an A. I was so impressed that you went to that extra tutoring time with the teacher and you sat there and you made me review the note cards with you, even though you hate mama helping you out, and that you tried again. That was pretty awesome. That is a behavior and an action they can control rather than what a grade will be. So when we think sometimes we're saying, this is good, what we're actually saying is, but next time it may not be. That's what they hear. And so the effort and the action they do can actually reduce that stress and make them want to do that effort and action again, as opposed to that criteria decides my worth.
Okay, so the next category is the one I couldn't think of a minute ago, which is ironic because it's my favorite. This is the category of what can you control. Some things that are stressful in life you can't control, they're coming at you and you're trying to deal with them, but what can you control? So, my child works or studies in his room, his bedroom, green or red. This is going to be the most probably mixed bag question. Okay, so keep this in mind as we talk forward. My child studies or works with his phone or other devices close by. Okay, yeah, so especially phone, okay? My child spends hours at night studying. Okay, I see a lot of reds and I think that's good. Okay, let me ask a follow-up question to that one. Because sometimes I hear parents will say, oh, my child is spending hours at night, they're stressed, whatever. And I'm like, are they in their room? Yes. Is the door closed? Yes. Do they have their phone? Yes. Okay, they're doing something. We're not sure fully if that's studying. And so one of the things that we really spend time with kids here is teaching them how to plan, how to control their time, how to manage their time, so that they don't end up. When I ask kids at the beginning of a time management session, and we've gone in now to every 10th grade class this year and taught it, we do follow-up sessions, we teach kids when they're juniors and seniors about time management, and we teach them a method called do versus do. So it's DUE versus DO. And what kids do, this is what humans do. Well, I'll just ask you, when you were in school, your professor gave you an assignment, and if you were a good student, what'd you do? The minute he gave you the assignment, or she. You put it on your calendar, and it was there in that square. And you felt all good, and you closed your agenda, and you headed off for the next class. And then when's the next time that realistically you worried about that little item? The night before. When I ask your students, you know, what do you do when you know, Miss So-and-so gives you the assignment, she says it's due in 3 weeks. Right on my calendar, DUE. Everybody knows when everything's DUE, and oftentimes some of those things are DUE around the same time. The teachers are thinking, but I gave them 3 weeks. But this is what humans do. You wait until you've got 2 days, and then it becomes urgent. And unfortunately, you have left yourself time to do that and the other 3 things that you put off. And that's where we get the stories of like, at night, up late, you know, the screen glowing in their faces, it's 2 a.m. That is a horrible place to be. And so we're trying to keep kids away from that place by teaching them how to make a calendar of DO. So we start with what's DUE. We put it all at the top of a piece of paper. We make them say, estimate how much time you need to write this paper, to study for this bio test, to finish this project. They commit to a certain amount of time in increments of 15 minutes. Then we take each of those things in order of most urgent and we move it down to a 2-week calendar and we book the times when they're going to DO it. It's, okay, it's Monday, what time do you get home from school? I literally will sit with them. What time do you get home? I get home about 4:15. Do you want to get a snack or do you want to sit down right away and study? I could get a snack. Okay, 4:30, you said you wanted a half hour for this thing, 4:30 to 5, we DO it. We book it on the calendar. So instead of letting kids just like hope for the best, which never works out, almost never, we have to teach them how to manage that. That is a life skill. And that's maybe one of the most important things that they can take out of high school is your time does not rule you. You rule your time, and you use your time wisely. So these questions are all about that. The other thing that we ask them is about how they're studying, and I'll give you some tips about that, what works best. My child studies with other people. Yes or no? Okay, so studying with other people can be very motivating. When kids feel deprived, because they have to choose this over this, combine it with something you enjoy. And actually studying with other people is much more efficient and effective if you're actually studying. Having someone else quiz you and kind of emulate how you're going to be tested, explaining a thing to another person is very effective. Okay, so more about why the control is important, and then I'll give you some
These are
strategies.
areas they can actually control. And these, I'm just going to, they're no secret. The time management, there was a student I worked with yesterday, came in, and I'm studying till all hours of the evening, and it's out of control. And then we did that 2-week method. We looked 2 weeks in advance, put the DUE, we put the when is thing, how much time will it take to get it accomplished. Then we put the 30-minute increments on there. And we looked, and he's finishing at 6:30, except days, I don't know if he does some other activity, kite flying or parachuting or something, bizarre, and he finishes. It's done. I said, so how does this make you feel when you look at the next 2 weeks and you're getting home, and on the really bad day, we had you study 2.5 hours because you skipped a couple days, but on most days, you're getting done an hour 15, you're done. And this is taking lots of challenging courses. And he goes, this is doable. Now, being an adult and working with a child, I said, great, you go home and try this, share it with mama, and then you're going to email me on what day and let me know how it's doing so we can come back again, because I'm an old adult who forgets things. I have to put on my calendar, expect email from Fred. So it's coming in. So we can check that. But we know time management. I forgot which parent I was talking to, and I was teasing, but maybe we will. We want to have a bring your child to time management night. And actually teach you this method that we teach them. And every Sunday, you're making it for the next 2 weeks. You're always planning 2 weeks in advance. I learned to do this very efficiently the senior year of college. Okay? But they really need to start figuring this out now. So that is one of the major things we have found out when a student says, I'm studying late, it's coming at the last minute, is, are we 2 weeks out? And sometimes it's, yes, I'm going to have to study late because all weekend I was soccering, and then my mom let me go to a concert, and then my Nana had to see me, and so we walk, we know. But this is the way we figure it and negotiate, so there's a reason for it. Study habits. Cheryl already talked about some of those, but we have found that in the room is a big issue. Electronic devices deserves its own special slide, which I'm going to give you in just a minute. Being able to study, this student was struggling in Spanish, and his teacher said, I need you to really listen more in Spanish and learn your listening skills. So there is listening to the Disney Channel in Spanish, or do you have two friends who would hang out with you after school and for 30 minutes talk about the World Series game last night, but in Spanish? Yeah, they would do that. Well, that became a fun thing we could do then with people by studying in groups rather than it's all me trying to figure it out. So they need some direction. So phone overload gets its own special slide. If we want to have control over anxiety, and if you want to sit down and have a really cool time and talk about data research, I'd love to do that. But since 2012, the correlation between teenage stress, and since they have it in school, is the relationship with use of the cell phone. It is happening. If you want to deal with stress, now here's the thing you can't do. I therefore take your cell phone away for life. Well, that's teaching them nothing when they head off to college. They become hyper addicted again. But we do have to figure it out because we found out it causes sleep deprivation if they're using it late at night. Some parents actually put the magic button and turn it off. Some people have it charging lovingly for the child in their rooms. Some of us can control our phones beautifully. Some of us are growing in that area. And I'll take my glasses off so I can't see you. I'm guessing some of you are struggling in that area too. Okay? At this point in the conversation, every parent slides the phone and puts checking. Lack of one-on-one direct, the fear of missing out, something else is going on. The spiral where it keeps coming at me and I can't get any downtime, and I'm hearing it again and again and again. Unless we help them manage, and I read this really great study about basically phone addiction and what it's actually doing to the brain and the expectations. So if you want to control stress in your child, it is managing that. It is not fully taking it away, because that is their world, that is their village, that is their connection. There's some connectivity that's important, but it may mean for some, you can use it sitting at the kitchen table. Or there are certain times you can and cannot use it. I know that my work is about done when the student says, this is when I'm studying, I did what you said, I put my phone on the other side of the room where it was out of my way, and I worked on it over here. If we could do that, we've actually helped them to figure it out. I'm not even talking about the content of harassment and bad things. It's one thing when if Cheryl says, Ken, I really do not like you. And I go, that hurts my feelings, I'm going to get over that. When it's in a text and coming at me again, I don't like you, I really don't like you, other people said they don't like you, and I just keep reading that again and again, we put them in a spiral. Why would they not be stressed and anxious? The only creatures that would be stressed and anxious would probably be my puppy or something that doesn't read well, okay? So we know if we want to control stress and anxiety, that's going to be a big one. One of the things the school did, we did a lot of things that we're still growing on. One of the things we're really working on well is reducing the use of phones in the school day. And I made that on my personal crusade in my little hall I have to monitor, not because it's distracting and because it's rude, which it is, but because I know it's making them more stressed out and they can never stop. They can never stop. I haven't come across very many students yet where the teacher reports so-and-so having difficulty, and that phone issue is not a challenge. So that is a great conversation maybe with your child about what is helpful, what is not helpful when we do it. I have a whole other hour and a half on the phone, but that is one that is directly related to the stress and anxiety that we're seeing here at school.
Okay, so,
Can I ask you about that?
yes,
So,
please.
Specifically, well, I wrote yes because they're using their laptops.
Yeah.
To do homework. Yeah.
Yep,
Right.
I'm not a Mac guy, but
Yeah.
all stuff pops
the
up.
messages
text
pop
up,
up, yep.
Right, so what's the,
One of the things we found to be location. If they're studying at the kitchen table, it is easier for that. Another that I don't think we can deny is we have to have a conversation with them about why it is an issue and a challenge.
Yeah.
Okay, just the ruling means they're not going to use the phone and the messaging when you are standing over behind them. Part of it has to be that conversation about why it matters. And then when you get a student studying for 30 minutes, the way we say, the reward is run to your phone, pick it up, see if you still have friends, answer them for 5 minutes, okay, and then go back. So it's a reward rather than a, but yes, for some, I've talked to some parents where it's extreme. You're at the kitchen table, your back is not to the wall, the computer's facing me. But for most, it's I need to have that conversation with you.
And I would say the other two things about, and I read constantly about phones and about anxiety and stress and adolescence and just everybody's trying to keep up. Like it's happening almost too fast for us to even conceptualize what's happening. And our kids are caught in it. It's just this technological wave. And I think that what's insidious about it, a couple of things when it comes to academics and just life and happiness. Number one is focus. That it's very hard for kids to attend for longer periods of time to things, and it feels really harder than maybe it was for us to sit down and just really focus for a half an hour or 15 minutes, which is why when I'm coaching them about studying, I tell them never study more than an hour at a time. It's better to do short blocks, like a really intense 15 minutes is way more effective than a distracted 45 minutes. You know, so kind of trying to build that muscle of, the other thing is things are hard. Things happen in life. Things are coming at us all the time. And one reaction to that is to go to your phone, to watch a video, to read a post, to just escape into it, right? And so I think that for teenagers, they do that, but it doesn't help. It provides a short-term solution. In that moment, they feel a little better, they get a little dopamine hit, but then when they look up from their phone, the problem has not gone away. It's just that they've taken this temporary respite. So I think both the focus and just the mental energy to be able to sit with being bored, sad, uncomfortable, and talk to a human about it, that those things, the phone is always trying to like give the immediate happiness, and it's oftentimes at the expense of like real content or real just ability to deal with things. Yeah?
Thank you for educating us. This is really helpful, and I'm very curious if our kids get to hear this directly from you too, in middle school, high school.
So definitely at the high school, they hear from Ken and I. And like I said, we keep bringing it down and down into the grades. And so this, I don't know, how long ago was it? Like a month and a half ago? Pretty early on, we went into all of so we'll pick like a class at a grade level. So every kid takes US history in the building. So we chose that class and we went into all those classes. And we did this. And we can send it to you, and it has like all the studies. It was more study habits focused because we wanted to teach the kids like what to do. So we probably did less about the cell phone stuff because we definitely touch on it. We definitely touch on the why. I don't think we go into as much. I don't think I would make quite as an impassioned speech to them about it, only because I'm talking to you as a parent, like from worry. And to them, I'm talking to them as like a pragmatic, like supporter, like a coach. So you hear my worry. For them, I'm like, okay, here's the worry, guys, but let's talk about how we can move past it. But yeah, they do. So all the 10th graders, and now, we need to think about how we kind of bring it down to 9th grade and just have a systematic, because I really need to be in a room with like 30 kids. They can't be in a, auditorium. Yeah.
Can you touch on listening to music?
About what?
Listening to music while you're doing homework. Like, I like to listen to classical
Yes.
music while I'm working, but I promise you my sons are definitely not listening to classical.
I
But
know.
insist on the fact that music helps them concentrate.
Okay, so this is a great time to go to this slide about strategies, because we give this, we're giving you our best advice based on everything we've read, based on our experience with hundreds of kids. And so I put this never on the first piece, so I'm going to attack your question via this. I had a dad email me after the last talk, and he said, well, I'm trying to lay down these rules with my daughter, and she said, send me the research. Never study in your room. And you guys told us there was some research about never studying in your room, and now she's like interrogating me, and I was like, okay, good. So I sent him some studies that suggested, was it your daughter? Yes. And then one that said like, but actually, like a guy at Duke who did a study that said, actually, and I think it was on college students, like when we looked at kids who studied in their room versus studied outside their room, it wasn't that much of a difference. And the conclusion was basically, and this is why I'm going to like give a caveat to listening to music, studying in your room. Can it work for some people? Yes. Like some people can study in their room and be successful. Some people can listen to music and be successful. If your child is already being successful at what they're doing, don't go home and like lay this list on them, change everything you're doing. In the areas where maybe they're not being successful, look at what they are doing, and if that's one of the variables, try changing it. If it's working for them, and I think people have studied this, and I think it's, again, it may be inconclusive, whether it actually harms you to listen to music. Yes?
So I'm a junior, taking very, very hard classes.
Yeah.
Very high achieving kid. We
Yeah.
had a lot of trouble with this to begin with.
Yeah.
At the beginning of this year, when you all took him to Georgia, wherever.
Georgia State. Yeah.
The one thing she got from that is never study in your room.
Yeah.
So from that point, she's been in the middle of our kitchen.
Yep.
Studying, and it's made a huge difference because we know more about what she's doing. She's much more interactive.
Yep.
Because I don't see her often at all. And
Yep.
and she's doing very well. It's been a nice methodology for her.
Yep.
So I don't think even if it's not broken, sometimes there's things that happen when the kids think it's a good idea and they do it.
Yeah.
It makes a huge difference.
So thank you for saying that, because this child, which I actually love when a kid is like, show me the research, because that's what we teach. We teach them to think that way, and then it comes back on us, okay? So here's to your point. Never study in your room has some research behind it, but also some common sense. So the common sense is your room is for rest and relaxation. It is the place that you go to sleep. We know that sleep is incredibly important to their mental health, maybe more than anything. That they get a decent night's sleep, especially while their brains are developing and whatnot. If they don't get enough sleep, it creates this nasty spiral of I'm not attending class, and 90% of success in college or in high school is show up and be engaged in class. If you're kicking everything down the road, kicking the can to the nighttime hours, that's when I'll get caught up on what I didn't do while I was in class, or I'm not paying attention in class, and then I think I'll go learn it on my own. You're creating more problems that just kind of pile up. So if your bedroom is a place for you to relax and sleep and really get rejuvenated, if you're doing work in that space, it's mixing up your restful space with work, with something that is anxiety producing. It's also that when your brain really needs to be focused and alert and like, this is my place to study, their bed is saying, no, relax, wind down, watch something. So we all know that like we have certain habits, that when we're in certain places, it makes us feel a certain way. It sends us a certain signal of like, be happy, relax. When I go to the mountains, every mile I get further away from Atlanta, I can literally feel my blood pressure, like whoop, just going down, because I'm just getting to a place that's very relaxing. So I think not studying in the bedroom, even though no one has conclusively shown a causal connection, there's a lot of common sense to it. Be in a place, study in the same place all the time, study in a place where you're accountable, where you can see them, where you know as a parent, are they really studying 6 hours a night, or are they just kind of like whiling away the time in their room miserable? That's not a good place to be. And it also just helps them to sort of separate. I'm a big proponent of keep your work in the daylight, separate your sleep and your relaxation and your pleasure from your work, and that's the recipe long-term for a better life and a more balanced life. Never study with your phone or device. Now, Ken will tell you, and he taught me this, it's so simple that I can't believe it didn't really occur to me, but I always tell kids, take your device, you study somewhere public, take your device and put it in a drawer in the next room and close the drawer. Because it's like metaphorically, you're putting it in like a little coffin. Like you're dead to me. Like it's all psychological and symbolic. Because if it's sitting here beside them, even if they're really good and it's flipped over, the amount of willpower it takes to not look at it, it's still draining them. So really with phones, like get it out of sight, out of mind, and then let them use it as a reward. Yeah?
So my kid's excuse is he takes notes of things to do at home on his phone.
Yeah.
So his get over me is, I need my phone here because now I know what to do.
Yeah.
I'm assuming the answer to that is write on a piece of paper with the phone.
You could write it down. I mean, again, like if it's working for him, then maybe that's not, but it's not. Okay. Then I'm going to tell him, and this is when I do the do process, I usually use an 11 by 17 piece of paper with kids, and we put everything they have to do on one piece of paper. So they don't have to flip through anything, it's just there. So again, psychologically, part of what drives us all mad is that feeling. And when kids sit down and work with me, I say, do you ever have that feeling that there's all these things out there that you're not quite sure, they're just outside of your consciousness and you think they're going to swoop in and hurt you? They're like, yes! Like that's this universal feeling. Putting it all in one place where you can see it, nothing is hiding. It's all there, and do it. So I would recommend, like I'm very old school, a piece of paper with everything written, and then maybe take that and transfer it to your agenda, I think is a great thing. I really think that this is a huge problem. And the more we can separate from it, the better. Yeah?
Why are we giving our kids, everybody gets a device, and everybody, all the curriculum, we talked to my son's teachers and said, he didn't do as well as he needed to on the last one, or wanted to on the last one. What extra work? Excel, Khan Academy, everything's electronic.
Yep.
So
Yep.
there's a big contradiction in
There's
what
a
you're
huge
saying, what you're
contradiction,
getting from
and
the
I'd be the
school
first to tell you that there's a huge contradiction, there's a huge demand. The kids in Decatur have one-to-one devices from the time they're in 4th grade through 8th. They actually power down when they come here. They actually have fewer devices that we have them working on than when they were 4 through 8, and sometimes kids are like, wait, what's happening? But there's a huge demand for us to get the Google Classroom up and running, get the, and
We
so,
have textbooks.
and to differentiate. you know, some kids need this, some kids need this, no one size fits all. So there's a lot of competing demands. And what I'll say is, you're right. Like, that is the world we live in now. And so part of this is we're sort of trying to manage things that we ourselves are operating with. Yes?
So for us, the cell phones are not an issue.
Yeah.
That lives in my pantry. It's the YouTube. It starts off, I gotta go to manage back, but not for you. I have to be on manage back and I have to do, you know, educational videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
And then it turns to all this fun stuff, YouTube videos. So
Yeah.
how do you teach them to limit the entertainment on YouTube?
Yeah.
When they have to be on YouTube for school.
So to this mom's point, this may be one of those reasons to bring it into your sphere, where when you're cooking dinner or whatever, your child is sitting right there and you can kind of coach them. Like, I just read an article that said you don't want to like helicopter, that's such a pejorative term, but you don't want to like do everything for them, but this is not the time to like completely back away either. You want to coach your child and say like, hey, if you're going to like focus hard for 20 minutes, ask them how long they're going to take on a task and say, okay, then for the next however long you just said, let's, you know, limit all of the things. Have one window open, look at one thing. As Ken was saying, I'm the parent who likes to lock my kid's phone up because I just get like, you know, like at night it charges in my room. And Ken's like, okay, but he'll be in college in 2.5. Like, you gotta like, you know, and he's right. Like, we have to not take it all away. We have to teach them how to manage it. And so these, you know, that is not easy.
And from the time they were little, where people are being taught for them to take it away.
Yes.
Instead of being taught to teach them
How
to
to manage
manage in their life or
Yeah.
their lives.
That's,
So one of the ways of starting, and I thought this was brilliant, I got this from someone else, I did not create it, was rather than fight the battle of, I need you to stop using it, quit using it, reduce it, is to give them some kind of system for simply recording when and how much they're using it. So you can sit there at that, but every 10 minutes I'm going to have a bell go off, and I want you to write down what you're watching at that time, so that they can begin seeing how they're getting sucked up into it. Because I agree with you, we're not leaving this world of technology. Okay? It's not going away, but they are going away to school or to work or to somewhere. And so we have to find a way to, which really no parents before in civilization have had to do. Congratulations, you're it. Okay, we have to find a way to teach them to manage that technology and control it. For some of them, it's sitting at the kitchen table, I need to be there. For some of them, it's in the living room, I can do it in a different place. But we have got to teach them or they're going to totally run into difficulties when they leave us.
There's an amazing TED Talk on this, where it basically says, like, if you go to these, like, how you're talking about this can be in adult life, it can be however it is. Like, I work at a tech company. I'd walk into a conference room and just be like, okay, everybody, computers away. I want them out of the way. From your bag, your phones away. We have somebody coming in to present. We want to give them all of our attention. I don't want to hear you typing. I don't want to hear, like, your phone making, whatever it may be. Phones off, like, all the way. But in it, in the TED Talk, they go through and explain, like, what's happening with technology today and why it's so distracting and why that, like, putting your phone away, not carrying the big thing
yeah,
like
it's built to attract
your light lighting up underneath
Yes.
it, whatever it might be,
Yeah.
like all those little
Yeah.
things. But to show like your kids to be like, hey, here's this TED Talk, and it was like,
So
it
if
was
you
mind-blowing.
could send that to us, we'll send it on
Yeah.
to Terry and share that with you so you all can have that. Okay,
Yes.
so that would be really
It's
great.
a great tool.
And I'll tell you something I did recently, last year when kids were working on a really long essay that I needed them to write as part of our program. I brought them here to the library for 3 days. They had 3 full days, and in the morning I took all of their phones and bins and locked them away. Like, they were just locked up. So no one had a phone and they just had to work and just focus and work. The best part of the day was by about 2:30 they were just fried. Like, if you're just working and researching and writing all day, you are done, Zoe. And at 2:30, no kid asked me for their phone back. They all got into little groups, and they went out there, and they sat around, and they talked, and they looked at each other in the face, and they laughed, and they communed, and it was lovely. And I'm telling you, like, that is the secret to a happy life. Like, the interpersonal connection, being able to talk to other people, whatever. So sometimes not having the phone just means that you can, like, be more connected to like real people, and it's a beautiful thing. Like I've seen it. I've seen what kind of just giving people a break.
And I can see the culture shift. In the last 2 days, I was in 8 10th grade classes. And all I said to them was, I need you to disconnect from everything else. Okay, from your phones, your laptops, I need to talk to you. Okay, you don't have to listen, just pretend you're listening, I'll be happy with that. And I just realized when you were talking, not once in 8 classes did I ever have to tell a student, please put your phone away, why are you looking at that? Because of the culture shift that's not what you do. Now these are people who are, I use this word carefully, almost phone addicted. And they put them away. I said, I don't want to see them. Let's just focus on this. And I didn't say it in my threatening voice. It was in actually my nice counselor voice. I said, I need you to disconnect. I need you to see you up here. Will you do that? And they all did it. And I just realized now, I'm shocked they all did it because it's typically I'm walking up and having the conversation and talking and I'm reminding someone to put the phone away, and that's where I spend my entire period. And I didn't do that with 8 10th grade classes. So the shift is possible. It's just hard.
So this next one is about setting strict time limits on your studying. So here's a thing that might surprise you, or maybe it won't. Your kids have no idea how long 5 minutes is. They don't. They don't know how long 2 minutes is. They don't know how long 15 minutes is unless you show them. And the best way to show them, and sometimes I'll do this, I'll say, okay, put your pencil on the paper. I'm going to give you a prompt. You cannot stop writing for 2 minutes. Don't let it leave the paper. And just write and write and write, and I'm only going to give you 2 minutes, write as much as you can. And they're like, tick, 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 tick. And 2 minutes is a long time. And they don't know that. They have no sense of time. And that's part of why they waste it so much. And then I ding it, and it's 2 minutes, and they look, and they're like, oh my God, I wrote like a 3/4 of a page in 2 minutes. Right. So part of what we try to teach them is set strict time limits, work hard, know how long 15 minutes is, and that if you study 15 minutes every night for bio, leading up to a test 3 weeks from now, you'll be good. The night before the exam, you don't need to study 2 hours, because you did your studying, you spent 5 hours studying, but it was in these little 15-minute chunks. And then when they do sit down to study or work on something, know when to say when. If you have that kid that's a perfectionist that's shooting for the difference between a 7 and a 7+, nip that in the bud. That is no bueno. So letting your kid, like just saying, no, you've spent enough time on this, time to put it away, let's turn it in, see how it goes. We'll see how you do and then we'll reassess. But really like helping them understand that being a master of your time is not just making more time to study, it's knowing when to say when and cut it off and go on and live your life. Yeah.
I just read an article and it was talking about how like manage back and like all these systems are actually causing anxiety in kids.
Yeah.
Like how do we, and actually just coming in here, like a friend was saying her son got one at the homecoming game and it like called and was like stressed out, and I just thought it was great. It wasn't what I was expecting. Like how can we work with the school so the kids know, like you don't get it on a Friday or Saturday or night when the teacher puts it in, because what it's doing is it's causing these kids at any point in time, I can get a message, bring it onto my phone, and it can tell me that I'm failing.
So,
Or like I didn't get the grade I wanted.
I think this is an incredibly good question. And this year, you might have noticed that at the beginning of the year, because I'm going to be honest with you, there are teachers in this building who are working in the service of a few parents who want constant updates about how their kids are doing. And when they check that box that shoots out to all of you, your kid just got a grade, and here's what it is, and now you feel the impulse to log in and see what that grade is, and then you have a reaction, and you text your kid, dear God, please not in the middle of the school day. You're right. You're exactly right. So I came back at the beginning of this year because I have 2 kids here. I had a freshman and a senior last year, and I had 2 teachers, one for each, who used that function. So every time my kid got a grade, that's 2 out of 14 total teachers. So just 2. If all of my kids' teachers had been using that function, I would have lost my mind. Because even as someone like me who kind of knows better and I'm kind of roll with it, kind of parent, I don't get too stressed out about grades and things like that, you get that ding and you think you should look. And then it sets off a whole range of emotions. So I came back this year and asked Mr. Hatfield, can you just tell the faculty, until we figure this problem out, no one hit that little box in ManageBack. And when I talk to parents at DHS 101, if you guys have been there, I say to you, my disclaimer is, I'm going to show you ManageBack. I'm going to show you how to get in there and see whatever you want to see. I am not telling you to go in. If you want to wait till every 6 weeks and see your kid's progress report, do that. Do not take this as my telling you you should be hovering over your kid's grades, because I'm not sure that you should. And until we figure out as a school what is healthy and what's a healthy amount of information, and we're getting pressure to put more and more data, and sometimes it's just from a few people, it's a lot, you know, but you're exactly right, it is not healthy. And there's plenty of people who will tell you this constant throwing data at parents is overwhelming.
If you figure out the ManageBack thing, tell them.
Yeah.
One of my son's teachers sends him out at 8:30 at night, right
Yeah.
when he's ready to go to bed, and he's like, oh my God. And it's,
So I will absolutely share that with Renpro, because this is something that I only really realized as a parent, because I happen to be a parent. And if I hadn't been experiencing it as a parent, I probably would have thought, mark that under super conscientious teacher, getting things scored, sending out the news to everybody. Like a teacher feels really accomplished. I just got through 150 essays. Woohoo! Like everybody look, you know, like there's this weird kind of thing going on here, but you're right. We need to, as a community, come to some agreements about what's healthy, how we're gonna all interact with each other, how we're gonna communicate, and not do things that actually create more of a problem than a solution. This one, creating regular study groups, I highly recommend this. It gives them the social, it's more efficient. The best way to study is to actually replicate the testing situation, so being able to quiz each other and things like that is a great tool. Study and do homework during tutoring. A lot of kids, so again, the philosophy is keep the work in the workday and keep your nights free for your life. Okay, so if I'm a kid and I know that I have math homework, I'm gonna go do it in math tutoring. I'm gonna stay at school, I'm gonna go drop into Mr. Champion's tutoring. I don't have to talk to him, but I'm in like my math classroom, and if I've had a problem, he's right there. I get my homework done, or I come here, I tell kids, come here, do an extra half hour at school, and then that's a half an hour you don't have to use that activation energy at home to get started again. So studying and tutoring, staying at school a little longer to study. If you want to give this a chance of a snowball in hell of succeeding, send your kid with a snack. Because mostly what's driving them out the door at the end of the day is ravenous hunger. Making a plan for do versus do, and then doing that like distributed learning a little bit at a time, and then when they do sit down to study, have a reward. Teach them how to like set a goal, study, reward yourself, start again.
So, I'll make this one. You want to go through this one quickly? Because
I think you guys can look at this.
and just see, because here's what I'm going to summarize with this. I want you to remember when your child was 6, 7, or 8. Okay? And remember the things that you did basically to try and take care of them. You made sure that they were fed. You tried to get them sleep. At some point you said, put that away as long as they go out and play. Remember those things? That doesn't change for adults, and certainly doesn't change for adolescents. To teach them to be resilient, we have to give them certain things. This is the philosophy it's based on, that we have to give them the ability to manage, to know when it's crying is okay, and crying is really a big deal. That's okay. We have some teachers, God bless them, that when a kid starts crying, it's, oh my goodness, we need to call 911. No, they may need a Kleenex, and then we'll see what's going on, because that is okay. Here's the thing we don't want to tell your children. We don't want them to know. You know what's going on, and you know the answers to what you need to do. They do not know the answers. But we do want them to believe, I can figure it out. And that is the key we want to give them. Not you don't know the answer to this, you can figure it out. And isn't it wonderful that they have you here for 8 years if your child's in 6th grade, for a couple more years if they're in 11th or 12th grade, to do that last minute figuring it out. Because these are the things we found out make them function better. When I have a student coming to me in crisis because I lost a loved one, after we've done the talking about this and some of the things, I do drill down to the, are you sleeping? Are you eating though you don't want to? If the parents, what can I say, are you taking a B vitamin? I mean, are you doing those things that are going to make you healthy and give you the strength to reserve? So this is a whole separate group I ran with 10th grade students, I think, last year, who were learning resiliency and how to become that. But these are the things we have found make people stronger to be able to endure. So we know that I typically have, and I just say, just do the first one, okay? Eating, sleeping, exercise. If you need a place to start. Eating, sleeping, exercise. Many people come to school not having eaten, and it's not a food need issue. Okay? That is not the challenge. We do know that sleeping is an issue when I went into the phone. So and I talk to my athletes. I talked to one today. It's, I'm feeling stressed. You're off season. You're not exercising now. When's the last time you went running for 20 minutes that way and 20 minutes back? For me, 5 and 5. But you did some. Okay. When's the last time? I don't have time. You don't have time not to. Here is your homework assignment. At a certain point, get up from your table, run away from the house for 15 minutes, turn around, run back, get a drink of water, and start your homework again. Try that for a week, 3 times a week, and let me know what's going on. So they need to be, because we all get in this spiral. I don't have time, and we cut away the things that matter the most to us.
Okay. These are some simple just strategies around this kind of stuff. I think we've belabored the devices.
Yeah, we did a lot of these.
This one, take walks to talk. So probably not all your teenagers are super open to your suggestions. They are very open to my suggestions and Ken's suggestions. And then I would need to ask one of you to come to my house and make the exact same suggestion to my own children. Because I'm the person who heard them.
I know nothing when it comes to working with my teenage nephew. My teenage nephew, I know nothing about college, life, girls, nothing. Students here, I know stuff. To him, it's, you're an uncle, whatever.
Right. But taking walks to talk, you've heard this, that if you're driving in a car and your child is not face to face with you, they'll kind of like just relax into talking. Taking a walk with your dog or just the two of you, walk around the block, whatever, it gets them out, exercising, relaxing, out in the open air. But it also enables you to kind of have that side by side where you can just kind of walk and talk. And sometimes in fact, try really hard not to make it about school. Like, make it about something other than school. Just life. Just spend that time just talking to your kid about just whatever. Do provide them with nutritious foods. I find that the only way to get my kids to eat well sometimes is if I put a plate of something good in front of them, they'll eat it just because they're too lazy to go find something unhealthy. So just kind of be shoving things in front of them. Encourage those outside pursuits like sports and clubs and friends and arts and whatever. My partner, Miss Ledoux, she raised 2 wonderful boys, and she says that she and her husband said if it wasn't one of the D's, if it wasn't destructive or dangerous, pretty much anything else, do it. Like whatever makes you happy, unless it's destructive or dangerous, try it, do it, whatever. Help your child develop vocabulary to name how they're feeling. Because sometimes they're pretty limited, but if they can really dig down to like, oh, I'm frustrated, or I'm sad, or have some words to talk about how they're feeling, that can be really helpful. Help them gauge the intensity of their feelings. If you're a person like this, or you're married or to someone or have a child where there's really only 2 speeds, sometimes it can be hard. I can't tell if my house is on fire or whether Atlanta United just got scored on. Like there's no... I'm always on edge like this because my husband's like, everything is, with emotion. So really helping them gauge like the intensity of what they're feeling and like, is this a serious thing or is this just something that we can move past? Setting specific times. This is really Ken's and he's given this advice for years. Sometimes you got to talk to your kid about school because you don't feel like you're really given enough support. Make a set time. Once a week, Sunday afternoon, whatever, and they know and you know that for this half hour, that's when you're going to talk about school. That's when you can look at grades, that's when you can like make a plan, that's when you can do whatever. But if they know that that's the only time you're gonna be talking, and the rest of the time that you're talking to them, it's not gonna be about school, they relax, you relax. I mean, how many times do you hear yourself saying, so, how did that blah, blah, blah go? And you're like, oh, why is that always the first thing on my brain to ask them about something related to school? So if you can have a specific time and then let the rest of your time be free to just be with your child, that can be really liberating for both of you. Help your child identify their strengths and just, what they enjoy, what they're good at, what their relative strengths are. That can make them just focus on the things that are positive. And then finally, just encouraging those face-to-face friendships. Face-to-face is a really good thing. Yes?
The set a specific time, I like that. Is that normally daily, once a week?
No, well, Ken says once a week, but that's generally what we're telling juniors and seniors.
When we have college talks, and my conversation is, have it once a week at the kitchen table at a certain time so that the students don't go through 11th, 12th grade year. Every time they see you, they're running and hiding because it's another college question. But I think it means for the child. For some younger ones, it may be short 10 minutes on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Okay? For older ones, it could be, it's really dependent upon how much info do you need and when do we need to focus this down there. The key is less about the how many's than it's just not going to be at any time, at any moment. And to let them know, these are the times. Right now, Mama saw your grades on November the 6th or Wednesday next week when they come out, and we've had the conversation about expectations and all that, and I'm going to need a few checkup times to know that you're writing an email and these things. But it may spread out depending on your child. And then there are some of you, your children appear to be doing fine. We need to have a talk, not because you need help, we need to have a talk because I just don't know what's going on. I feel unloved. Okay, so I need you to talk to me about that. And what am I going to say, So that is one way we do it.
I want to do one more green and red, because this is something that, like, as a parent, I'm struggling with right now a little bit, because my first child was more like a cool roommate who, like, checked in with me every once in a while, and was kind of on autopilot. I take no blame and no credit for that one. And now my second child requires a little more, like stick-to-itiveness and leaning in to his life. And honestly, sometimes I find myself feeling guilty if I'm not asking about school. So give me a green if you feel that emotion. Like if you're not asking, you feel like, am I doing enough as a parent? Okay, I feel like that's kind of a negative emotion. I don't feel good when I feel that way, and I feel like it's probably not healthy. So I think that this little thing, where you're setting a specific time, that's actually very freeing for you too. Because in your mind, it's not that I'm not a vigilant parent. It's that I'm going to make a time and a place for this, and the rest of the time I don't have to be beating myself up because I'm not like managing.
Think of it exactly. We don't like the dings on the phone. Check your grade. What's going on? It's bringing it back to mind. That's what happens when they never know we're going to talk to them about school. Is it going to be now? Is it next time? What's going on? What's going to happen?
Exactly.
Okay. And so that can change some of the academic stress. Also lets them know that you see we have some control over this as we're managing it.
Yeah. That's some questions back there.
I find it challenging with my kid being a senior and we're trying to focus on applying to colleges.
Yes.
And it's really hard. I just text my husband, I have to have this conversation once a week now.
Wait, raise your hand if you have a senior.
Really, really.
Raise your hand if you have a
Special
middle
blessings
schooler.
to that group.
Middle schooler, start now with them. So when you're a senior, they're used to it, and I'm serious.
Yeah.
So it is different now. But I would approach the senior in a different, okay, we need to start figuring out how we're going to be adult to adult kinds of relationships. That's why we're doing it differently than we've ever done before.
Yeah, and I have had that conversation.
Okay, so this is what I need as the other adult in this house as far as the conversation.
And the caveat that Ken gave me last year when my kid was applying to schools was if it involves money, like something big ticket risky, like your FAFSA or like a scholarship, then yes, like get in there and make sure it gets done. But if it's not something that's like really like big ticket like that, then you can kind of relax a little more. Yeah.
Your daughter, or I assume it's a daughter, just for your first child?
No, it was a boy. boy, the five's all reason.
That, you know, it's like a little roommate, you
Yeah.
don't have to be on.
Yeah.
I have a child like that, and I got slammed last year because I didn't know enough about school from her.
Yeah.
So I didn't need to monitor her, I didn't need to have that conversation. People would ask me, what's she doing? I'm like, I don't know, I'll ask her.
Yeah.
Because she was doing great and was happy and all
Yeah.
that, but then I started to realize that there was a disconnect there.
Yeah.
And so I needed to like pull myself in and look at management so that I could have that conversation
Yeah.
and actually know the name of her teacher. You know, and so I think where I have a different experience with my second too.
Yes.
So it's like,
Every kid is different. There's nothing that we're telling you here tonight that is like, oh, apply to your child.
Oh, it's worse than that. They're sometimes different from month to month and year to year.
Exactly.
Okay.
You remember when they were little and you thought like, yes, grapes, they like grapes. And then literally the next day, they're like, grapes. You know, every time you think you figured it out, it's something new.
So I want to go ahead and, bring it to, so you do not need to do the 97 things we suggested and the other things we've thrown in. But you may want to start with what resonates with you as the place to begin, the place to start, and what to, for some it's the conversation. For some it's the, let's do the check-in in the room. For some it's, let's just reevaluate so I can be sure you know what I think about effort grades. It could be your grade, and you're actually going to have a conversation about the phone. But you decide with that. Now, when I said Kleenex versus crisis, I also want to pay, good attention to, sometimes there's a crisis. There is a thing going on. And I would say reach out to your child's teacher, reach out to your child's counselor, reach out to the Decatur Student Center, reach out to the IB coordinators, because I get so many wonderful things from parents saying, I just want you to know about something's going on, or can you give me a call? And sometimes it's, this, and sometimes there are things that we need to know. So I don't want to say, let your child cry, that's good. I'm sorry, crying is okay. But if you find out it's starting to disrupt, it's over for a long pattern of time, it's disrupting sleep, eating, it is something, we need to have the conversation. Sometimes it is simply, I need you to see how to manage your time, and wow, it can be done. But sometimes it's other things. And so I would say, please do reach out to us. You can take a picture of this one. This one's good. This is a book you've been assigned to read for your next meeting. It's your homework assignment. This one was written by, one of the authors, Jan Hibbs, and by the way, you can Google the podcast. It's 30 minutes from NPR. It was her son. She's a family therapist, and it's her son who hit college, and suddenly it's, okay, this isn't working anymore. All these great things and all these other families I work with, some things are missing because we know college students are hyper-stressed. I'm going to show you just very quickly, and we're not going to really discuss them, but these are the 8 things you want your child to be able to do when they leave here and head out into the world.
Yeah, this is going to be on our website too, the PowerPoint, right?
Yeah.
For a small fee, which means remind you to send it. Yes,
I'll remind you
absolutely.
to send it will be on our PowerPoint.
Yes.
On our
But I
website.
highly recommend this. These are the things we know. And these are the questions that we want them to be before they leave here. There are 3 slides of these. The second one is, can you get yourself up in the morning, get yourself to school? If they can't, we should be sending them out to the world. If you've got to wake them up, we need to talk. Love the first bullet point. Self-control, self-management. And we talked a lot about grit and frustration and that ability to endure and be resilient. And then the final 3. So there's a chapter on each one. They give examples from the kids' lives. Or you can do the lazy person way that I did and listen to the 30-minute podcast and then by the book and slowly make your way through it. But as we talk about stress and academics, the helpful but sad thing is everything they're talking about they're seeing from first and second year students in college, we can easily pull down to 4th and 5th grade. About these are the things we want them to be able to learn to do. So there's some helpful tips in there that you may want to look at and just give yourself some encouragement. And I still have a dream of having a book club where parents can get together once a month and we can talk our way through this. It may be a rule that you're a high school parent, you're allowed to come, but you have to bring a middle school parent with you, okay? So that we can really start doing this when it comes to that. Yes. So,
And can you remind folks?
no, I'm handing it back to you now.
Oh, are you going to get back to me?
Yes, we are, that was my last slide. Ta-da, finally, the most important one. Talk to your children, talk, pretend they're human, talk.
Real quick, down one out. You gave it back.
Yeah, back to you.
Just leave your papers down. Please fill out the feedback form before you leave and just leave it turned over outside on the table. That's great. Couple things I don't think we got a chance to say. The leaders of the Decatur Parents Network that are here tonight, we have some new leaders that I want you to know about too. We're finally starting to get more going. We need more volunteers, more folks. Like you saw us scrambling. Laura Nolan helped us out tonight. There's Laura, that was a last minute plea for volunteers. We need help. Little things like tonight. But Joel Gould in the back has been, he's not new anymore. He's been taking care of making sure you can see this afterwards. A video will be uploaded with the PowerPoint. Navab McDaniel has joined our team recently, and he did great help in different areas. And is Kunle still here? Kunle left. Oh, Kunle. He has joined our team also. So upcoming on the schedule, you talked about the next in our series in the next month is on the data dive. For those who are willing to not be burying your head in the sand.
One quick data fact I read it yesterday. Where do teens drink most? Okay, school, the two places they're drinking most are at their homes, at a friend's home. Come find out more at the data dive.
So what's the real data of what students in Decatur are doing that might be information you want to know about? That'll be in our next speaker series. But also, you've noticed one way we help each other get to know each other is some of you have been gracious enough to host a coffee in your home. We've done most of those grade related. We will have, I already got dates from somebody willing to host for 11th grade, am I correct? And so we'll get that posted when that next copy is. But there's going to be a few topic specific instead of grade specific that we're going to do. We're working on those dates. Two of them might be in the spring. One will be families looking at things LGBTQ related. So that won't be grade related, it'll be topic specific. Another topic specific will be about parenting. Some of you, raise your hand in the room if you have kids already out of high school, Decatur High School.
Everybody.
Did you think parenting stopped? Heck no. And so looking at some of that, what we're going through, that'll be a specific coffee for those folks who are facing parenting and that. And another one that will be this in November, it's not November yet. In November, we're hosting a coffee. Kunle has helped us get this one together, and it's going to be topic specific about the racial disparity on performance outcomes of students in Decatur, and getting parents talking more about, well, what is going on, what's happening. There will be some school leadership at that one, but it's kind of kicking off more further parents discussing. So that's Decatur Parents Network, some of the things we're hosting. I know it's confusing about showing up and having to fill out, we track attendance, and we need that for all the program reporting. We need to report out what we do, and we need to know the numbers. So just so you know, when we started the discussion the last month on vaping, at the start of the event, there are only 5 parents in the room. But we are asked over and over, tell us more about this vaping epidemic. Well then, why aren't people coming? If there's only 5 showing up, who's burying their head in the sand? I mean, these are topics, and so it's important to us to know what's going on here. If people don't want to come, are we not offering the right stuff that's helpful? Are you not knowing the facts about something going on? So having that sign-in, that's the numbers game we do play. The second piece of it has always been confusing in our network, is this membership. And it's an online membership for free that's really getting down to, do you agree to some of these ideas? And it's either pledge-based, if you're willing to look at that pledge and go, yeah, I want to be a house that puts the sticker on the door that says I'm a Decatur Parent Network house. I'm not letting my kids I'm not letting them have alcohol when they're with me, and I'm supervising them. I'm still letting them be kids, but I'm trying at least to be aware of what they're doing, and I want to be a house like that. It's topics like that. So that's what that membership piece is. Now, if you always want to know what we're doing and you're not ready for that step, it's okay to sign up on that website as a friend also. But many people come to our events and they think that because they signed in, that they're one of those members. Not true. So we can't sign you up just because you signed on something because there's that pledge piece. So if that makes a little more sense.
And I went through and looked, because we have almost 60 people here tonight. Yay! And I went in and looked, and folks, now my membership list is not 100%, the printout list is not 100% up to date, but I would say about a third of y'all are members. So if you haven't joined, and you consciously not known that you haven't joined, because some of y'all are choosing not to join, that's your choice. And you always welcome at our events. But if you think you're a member and you're not sure, would you please go on to DecaturParents.net, and it has a little button over on the right side that says join or about, and see. Because a lot of folks say, oh yeah, I've signed in. I'm like, it's a little more involved than that. I'm sorry it's more involved than that. But in order to be able to send you stuff, you have to, and for people to be able to connect with each other, that's the only way we can do it legally. So.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you for being here. Thank you.
Make sure we get this